We live in a world where we can talk to anyone, anywhere, at any time. Yet more and more people say they feel completely alone. How is it possible to be surrounded by thousands of online friends, hundreds of likes, constant notifications, and still feel an emptiness inside? Today, we're going to uncover the hidden psychology of loneliness in our hyper-connected world, and why connection has never been so complicated. Welcome to Think Easy Podcast, the place where we explore the fascinating world of human psychology, emotions, and behavior. I'm Zuno, and in this episode, we'll journey into the science, the emotions, and the real human stories behind loneliness, not as an abstract concept, but as something that touches all of us, whether we realize it or not. Let me tell you about Anna. She's 29, lives in a busy city, works in marketing. On the outside, she's constantly surrounded by people, meetings, group chats, Instagram messages. But one night, after scrolling endlessly on her phone, she realized something strange. She hadn't had a deep, meaningful conversation with anyone for weeks. She was connected to hundreds of people, but none of those connections felt real. Anna's story isn't unique. In fact, research from the Cigna Loneliness Index found that nearly 61% of adults in the U.S. report feeling lonely. And this number has been rising, especially among younger generations, the very people who spend the most time online. Loneliness. It's not just a mood. It's not just sitting alone in a room with no one to talk to. Psychologists define loneliness as the gap between the connections you have and the connections you crave. And that gap can exist even in the middle of a crowd, even while your phone is lighting up with messages. Think about the last time you went to a party, smiled, laughed, and still felt disconnected. That's because loneliness isn't about physical proximity. It's about emotional closeness. Back in 2018, the Cigna Loneliness Index revealed something startling. Nearly 3 in 5 adults in the U.S. reported feeling lonely. And this isn't just about older people living alone. The highest rates were among young adults, aged 18 to 22. The very people who grew up with smartphones in their hands. Why is this dangerous? Because loneliness doesn't just hurt emotionally, it hurts physically. Researchers at Brigham Young University found that loneliness increases the risk of premature death by 26%. In fact, it's as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And here's the irony. Social media was supposed to bring us together. But in many ways, it's replaced deep connections with fast food friendships. You get a quick hit of dopamine from a like or a comment. It feels good for a moment, but leaves you empty, just like eating sugar when you're starving. One therapist I spoke to described it perfectly. We're overfed, but undernourished, socially. So, why is loneliness actually worse now that we have more ways to connect than ever before? First, the illusion of intimacy. A video call or a DM might feel like connection, but often it's missing the subtleties of in-person interaction. The eye contact, the tone shifts, the micro-expressions your brain relies on to feel safe and understood. Second, comparison culture. Open Instagram, and you're instantly thrown into a highlight reel of other people's lives. You're not just seeing their moments, you're seeing the best, most filtered, most perfect slices of them. And without realizing it, you compare those slices to the messy, unfiltered reality of your own life. The result, you feel like you don't measure up, and isolation grows. Third, the fear of vulnerability. There's a subtle anxiety about opening up in a world where everything can be screenshotted, shared, or judged. Many people keep conversations safe and shallow because it's less risky. But emotional safety comes at the cost of emotional depth. Fourth, quantity over quality. You can have 1,000 followers but not one person. You feel comfortable calling when you're scared or heartbroken. Let me give you an example. A man named James once told me he had over 2,500 Facebook friends. But when his father passed away, he realized he had no one to call at 2 a.m. He said it felt like standing in a room full of people who were all looking at their phones, not at him. That's the paradox of our time. Connection everywhere, intimacy nowhere. If loneliness is like hunger, then what's the real food? The answer is meaningful, consistent, emotionally safe relationships. Psychology gives us some powerful, research-backed tools to rebuild that kind of connection. 1. Practice quality over quantity in relationships. Focus on a smaller circle of people you can invest in deeply. Social scientist Robin Dunbar says our brain can only handle about 150 stable social connections, and only 5 of those can be truly intimate. 2. Reclaim face-to-face moments. Even short, in-person interactions, chatting with a barista, asking your neighbor how their day was, boost oxytocin, the hormone that makes us feel bonded and safe. 3. Embrace vulnerability in small doses. Being open doesn't mean oversharing. It means offering a little more truth than usual. Try telling a friend something you struggled with this week. See what happens. 4. Schedule tech-free connection time. Set aside one evening a week where you put the phone away and give someone your full attention. When you remove the digital noise, you notice details you've been missing. And here's a simple but powerful idea. Make the first move. Don't wait for someone to invite you. Be the person who sends the first message, makes the first call, asks the first question, because connection isn't something we just find, it's something we create. Remember, meaningful relationships are like slow-cooked meals. They take time, patience, and intention. But when they're ready, they nourish you in ways that last far beyond the moment. Loneliness in our hyper-connected world is a strange paradox. But it's not permanent. It's your mind's way of reminding you, you're human, you're wired for connection. And sometimes the deepest changes start with the smallest step, a single genuine conversation. So maybe tonight, instead of another scroll through your feed, call someone. Ask how they really are. Listen, and let them know they matter. Because none of us are meant to do this life alone.